Hey, deserving listeners, as a lot of you know, I have been watching reality TV and reacting to it on YouTube for quite some time, but it all began with Love is Blind 2 years ago when the pandemic started. I watched the show Love is Blind Season 1 on Netflix, and I thought, maybe I'll do a reaction video. I don't know. I'm sure no one wants to see that, but I'll post it. It's kind of an interesting show. And then y'all were like, this is nice, I like this. And you started asking me to watch other shows. And so 2 years later, here we are coming full circle back to Love is Blind Season 2. Let's watch.
Right here. You were my number one, so.
Really? You were my number one too.
Oh, look at that.
So Natalie here, there's a few things to say. One, it's great to see Asian American on the show. They're rarely on these shows. The other thing she was talking about in an interview was that when she's dating, people will sometimes swipe right with her because they're looking for a submissive Asian woman, an obedient, quiet woman, and then they realize, oh, she's a three-dimensional, multifaceted human being that you can't stereotype and put into a box like some kind of dimwit. And so she is upset about that, and as an Asian American myself, I can tell you that it bothers me as well. Anyway, and the thing that I'll say is that to say that Asian women are anything as a monolith is ridiculous because, it's ridiculous about any group of people. But when you're talking about just mathematically, when you break it down, what Americans consider to be Asian people, it encapsulates like 55% of the population of the planet. So we're talking about something like 4 billion people are considered Asian, according to Americans. And of those 55%, there's going to be about half that are going to be women. So you're literally talking about 2 billion people all being subservient and obedient. They all have the exact same personality, which is, of course, even if you're talking about 30 people in a group, that's just not likely. So it really shows the ignorance. It's upsetting. People aren't born with those ideas, they're given them by, so it's society that's a problem, obviously. But anyway, and then Natalie was talking about how she went on a date with someone and he had jean shorts and she didn't like that. And then she kind of took a step back and said, well, it's kind of shallow to look at someone with jean shorts. Really, I'm looking for someone that I can bond with, someone that personality-wise bonds with me. And so I guess I shouldn't be looking at things like that. But then she said, well, jean shorts are disgusting or something. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with jean shorts? Do I have I've had jean shorts, but what's wrong with jean shorts? I don't. One, what's wrong with jean shorts? Two, why would you not date someone based on wearing jean shorts? I would understand if they wore something really odd, like a thong, and you were at like a steakhouse or something. Like they didn't have any, or they had, ashless chaps or something. I'd get there would be some kind of I wonder what that's. But what a jean short. Now maybe it was who knows. Anyway, so that was interesting. And I wonder what that says about her. Who knows? Anyway. But now a notable thing is that she sits down with Shayne. They're kind of feeling each other out. They're like, oh, I kind of put a star next to your name. Oh, I was looking forward to seeing you too. And they're having that kind of discussion. And then they're like, oh, you're my number one. You're my number one. This is day 2. That's interesting. Well, so we'll see if they actually retain that. They seem compatible in a lot of ways. So maybe we're seeing the beginning of a lifelong marriage between these two.
That'll help. I'm a words guy, dude. I was her favorite. And that's what that dude, you give me the words of that, man. I let my ego goes through the roof. Boom. Me, I need to be in front of people. I need to feed off their energy. I feel fantastic. You know what? I didn't think my confidence would go any higher, but it did. I'm kidding.
Okay, so I wonder what Natalie would think about seeing Shayne in his relaxed, laughing state. So his personality, it's interesting to think about because when you're in the pods, you're not only unable to see the other person, but you're also unable to see them socializing. So, and that is something that you would want to see. before you make a decision about marrying someone. You don't, because there are elements of someone's socializing that could, be similar to jean shorts.
In the dating world the past couple of years, it's just their idea of flirting is poking fun. Girl goes, she goes, "You're Shayne, aren't you?" And I'm like, instantly just knew right when I walked in that door.
No one has your voice.
You sound like Beetlejuice.
You call me fucking Beetlejuice. That's a tough one to swallow. I think I'm a huge tool, absolutely 100%, and I own that. That's
People think I'm a huge tool, and I own that. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. If you know it and you embrace it.
10, okay? You don't want all other women like after your man, okay? Ask any woman as they get older. We get older, we get wiser. Okay, question.
What's up?
What do you want in a wife?
What do I want? I want self-awareness. I need someone who's very secure of who they are.
Good on Shayne. And, he is self-aware enough to know that he's a tool. And so, and he's saying, number one quality, self-awareness. Wow. I mean, are young people that wise? Because I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say that before. But yeah, that is a box that you would definitely want to check, because self-awareness, I mean, and there's a lot that goes into self-awareness, right? It's not just like a tiny part of your personality. There's so many things that play into it. Differentiation, therapy, humility. So many things go into self-awareness. So, good on Shayne for wanting that. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And I'm very, very good at reassuring how I feel about someone. And listen, we all have our insecurities, trust me. But tell me I'm fabulous once in a while, and I can walk off and happy with my day. That's all I care.
You will never have a problem with me. No, I think it's important.
It's people do not, I feel like compliments are so rare these days.
Oh,
especially
I'm huge
with the
into
people
it.
you care about the most. They just expect.
So Shayne he says that he self-identifies as a tool, and I think, I'm wondering what plays into that. Is it his laugh? Is it his, I don't know, seemingly, he doesn't care about coming across in a certain way. He doesn't seem to be self-conscious at all. He's just blurting things out that seem to be coming into his mind. Is it the fact that his voice is a little, according to other people, notable? Is it that he talks a lot? Because we're starting to see a kind of rambling that he does, and there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but I'm wondering if he's going to start bothering other people. But they're both saying that he says, I'm really good at complimenting, and I want someone that is very good at complimenting me. I want that back and forth, and that's great as well. And they're saying, people don't compliment each other anymore. And, it's interesting, because the older I get, the more I start hearing people say things about my generation or people older than me, and I'm like, do you have some let's make America great again kind of thing? Because in the past, people were not better with compliments. If anything, I would say younger people today are much better with it than we were when we were younger, and people older than me. So, and of course, it'd be hard to measure this. I don't know the research, but in general, people have a hard time with compliments. And it's actually an interesting topic psychologically and personality-wise, because there's a lot of illogical things, like, why is it hard for us to compliment someone? Why is it hard to receive a compliment? It doesn't make any sense, right? If you just write it out, it's like, well, if you see something nice, wouldn't you want a compliment? If you receive a compliment, isn't that what we're looking for, our compliments? Well, there's a lot of things I could say, but very briefly, I will say that when receiving a compliment, it puts you on the spot. And for some people, they're totally comfortable with that, or, relatively comfortable. But some people, because of their relational traumas, it highly, because you receive the compliment, and then that the person is looking at you and looking at your response. And if you have a lot of shame, it might be hard for you to accept it and acknowledge it and say thanks, or even just have a neutral response, because you don't want to give a signal to the other person, because of your relational traumas, that you agree. And so it puts you in this bind where, on one hand, it's nice and you don't want to reject the other person. But on the other hand, you've learned from your relational traumas that you have to be the inferior one. You have to be the lesser. And to accept the compliment means you have to now accept that you're at least on the same level as other people. And so you must reject it. And so it really is a hard conundrum for some people. And there are various other things I could say. The other aspect is, why is it hard to give compliments? And one of the reasons, and there are a number, is to give a compliment is to be vulnerable. You know, to say, especially if someone is close to you, to say to them, I really appreciate what you did yesterday, or wow, look what you did there, that you did that favor for me, or you look so great today, or I just love you so much. You know, it's vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there, and it's something that we don't often acknowledge because it's not intuitive that it's vulnerable to compliment someone, right? But what can happen in sort of a worst case scenario, and it happens to us throughout our life periodically, is we will give a compliment, whether it's very direct or otherwise, and the other person won't really receive it well. They'll reject it because of their own shame, or they'll be like, they won't care or something, or they'll be like, you're trying to, you know, get with me because I don't like you, or, you know, there's rejection that can happen. You know, a common scenario that we can talk about is you're at the dance and you walk across the room and you ask your crush to dance, and because it's a compliment, you're being vulnerable to them, and you're saying, I like you, I want to be with you, I want to dance with you, and then they reject you, and that's hurtful. And so to compliment is a form of that anyway. So it's good that, you know, they're talking, but I'm wondering if Shayna is going to say, wow, he talks a lot.
People, like, because of my personality, they assume I just get compliments 24/7, and it couldn't be farther from the opposite. It comes off like if I came up to you like out of the blue and said something like,
Like, I look at the good in people and like, why not tell them, you know?
that's fantastic.
Are you playful?
I'm very playful.
I can tell you're playful.
I'm very
I think that's important.
I will say that a phenomenon that I think is playing out with Shayne is that because he has a distinctive voice and he's very out there verbally, kind of vulnerable and mixes it up a lot, because you can imagine some of the fellas are a little more reserved and more boring, I guess. Because they can't see each other, they can only go off of voice tone and conversation vibe. And of course, that's a big part of dating. Seemingly, they were alluding to the fact that all the women are very aware of Shayne for maybe all those reasons. And when everyone becomes aware of you, so what could I say about the psychology of this? One is that when you're dating and there's nothing memorable, even though you might be very compatible with the person, but there's nothing memorable, then you become irrelevant in their mind. So sometimes, you know, like pickup artists as a group of people, you know, mystery, all that thing, they'll talk about you have to have a distinctive look. You have some bling, or you wear a weird hat. Like, you have to wear something that's very noticeable. You know, if you just look like everyone else, then you don't stick out and you're not attractive. Plus, it signals that you're confident enough to wear like a weird thing. And so maybe his voice is having that effect on people. Now, I will say there's a lot of dubiousness to the claims of the pickup artist community, and I've talked about it before. The other phenomenon that is at play potentially is that the 15 women will consult each other around, oh, did you talk to that guy? What do you think of this guy? Well, if everyone's talking about one guy, we have this bias about fame and about importance and about prestige. It's why if Beyonce were to show up at brunch at your house, you wouldn't treat her just like anyone else, right? A better example would be, say it's a politician, a senator, for example. You've never heard of them before, so you don't have any reference for their fame or what they're. But if a senator walks into your house for brunch, you'd probably focus on that person a little bit more. You'd be a little bit more concerned. You might even be very concerned about them and their experience and making sure you're pleasing them. And we have this thing in our society that when someone has prestige and when we have the perception that all eyes are on someone, it elevates them and it makes them more attractive. It makes them more interesting to us. They feel powerful. They feel like they have what it takes or whatever. They have that magical stuff. And so I wonder, it's a lot of speculation, that if a lot of the women are referring to Shayne because he has just distinctive voice, and then they start focusing on him, and it starts to raise his stock, if you will, because I don't know if that's true, but it would be. And if any of you are watching, and planning on being season 3, maybe have an interesting voice.
I now know who I am and like what I want.
And then you met me.
Touche.
How about it?
Touche, Kyle. Right now, like my top 2 are Kyle and Shayne. Kyle, I think he's very witty. He's probably one of the funniest people I've ever met. But with Shayne, he definitely has that energy that kind of draws you in.
So I think Shayne is the new Barnett. Remember, everyone loved Barnett. And so maybe Shayne is him now.
My mouth gets me in trouble a lot. Today, I'm gonna like get deep.
Yeah, let's get into it.
You wanna get into it?
I know you do.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna get deep inside of your thoughts right now.
That sounds very intriguing.
I'm
okay.
intense.
Oh my God, I love it.
What are you wearing over there right now? Give me your outfit details.
Okay, so I'm actually wearing heels. I'm wearing the
They're talking about getting deep, getting really into it. And they're like, yeah, let's really get into it. And then his first question is, what are you wearing? I mean, it's fine. She seems fine with it, but that wasn't what I was expecting.
I'm like the guy that will like, we're at a restaurant, let's go to the bathroom, let's fuck around, like let's do stuff like that.
Hello.
I love like outdoor stuff. I don't know if you can keep up with me. That's what I worry about.
Don't underestimate me. You have no idea.
Is there a way to elaborate on that, or are you just gonna keep me like going to bed now, just dreaming about like, or like thinking about what that means?
I'm gonna keep you dreaming.
So sexual attraction for many people, not everyone, is an important element of flirting, dating, bonding, coupling. Often, the way we facilitate that or experience it is in person. It's the things that you see, it's the things that you feel, it's, having a kiss on the first date. But when you're in a box and you can't see each other, how do you introduce those vibes? Because you get that heart pitter-pattering, and that's what causes you to like someone sometimes. Well, one way to do that is to talk about sex, which is what they're doing.
I'm at this point now where it's like dating 2 people and like I'm getting serious feelings. With Shaina, it's flirty fun, like sexiness. It is a roller coaster of emotions. With Natalie, it feels like it's way more emotionally stimulating. There is playfulness in it, but there's also a good balance of like seriousness too.
So is Shaina and Natalie gonna become the new Jessica and what was the other guy? Was it Ashley or something?
Stumbling over my words.
It's fine.
I don't know, there's also something about your voice. I can't pinpoint it, but I just feel really good about this.
There's a heart with your name right in the middle of my notebook. Like I autographed it like number 1.
I love talking to you. I mean, you already know that.
Yeah.
I think it's like times like these.
Another aspect about this is that they know they're in competition with 14 other people. And so they have to, once they find, normally you're not, well, I guess sometimes, yeah, but not this pointedly, where you know that you're like, well, I feel kind of a connection with this person, but if I don't, it's like Black Friday of dating, because if I don't snatch this guy up, then someone else is going to take him, and then I'll have nothing, and I will have done this whole thing for nothing. And a lot of people, I think, genuinely go on this show because they genuinely have had a hard time meeting someone, and they genuinely want to meet someone. And so, you imagine you could have months of time of just like, I'm about to meet the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, and then to meet people and to be like, maybe you're not quite sure about them, but you got to convince yourself, you got to start grabbing. And how do you do that? Well, you have to signal to the other person, like, hey, you're at the top, or you're in the top 5. Am I in your top 5? Oh, well, actually, you're in my top 2. Am I in your top 2? Well, actually, you're my, like, there's these, and we've seen that, and we remember seeing that in the first season as well. But it's an interesting aspect, I think, of it. And I wonder if that, because Black Friday, for example, when you go into a store and there are certain things on sale and for a limited time, and there's only 5 of those TVs, suddenly you are willing to go through a lot to get that TV because of the scarcity, because of any kind of budget issues or whatever. And then say you do get your hands on it, again, you'll go through a lot to get that. You bring it home, you might consider that TV to be your prized possession in your life. Whereas if you just bought it on Amazon or something, it wouldn't feel as special to you because you didn't. It wasn't rare. You didn't have to go through a lot to get it. So to come on a show like this and you're thinking, wow, I'm up against 14 other people and they chose me and they didn't choose the others. And I could just see that elevating how it felt. You know, a lot of the way a relationship is bonded has to do with these intangibles. You know, often what we think about in terms of why people bond is, well, they must have been made for each other. There must have been some massive compatibility. And often those are elements, you know, philosophically or otherwise. But there are other things too. There are other psychological elements like scarcity, like they chose me over other people. It's sort of like if someone that you know is famous, for example, someone that you know has access to a lot of different, you know, a lot of people like them, but they choose you, whereas if you met the same exact person, they look the same, they have the same personality, but you didn't have the impression that they had a lot of options, you might feel differently. And so we can't get outside of those biases. And so I wonder if this show amps that up in a really intense way where you're just like, I must have this person.
Shayne's my guy. I'm so happy. I am literally obsessed.
Wait, why? What happened? I missed.
I've like thought about him this entire time and he like just validated it. I feel like this is it. He like put my name on his notebook, like on the front page. And
What?
Has been telling guys just like, oh, it's gonna.
Yeah, that's gotta suck. You know, it's one thing to go on a date with someone and then, you know, you drift apart and you're thinking, well, maybe with that person. It's another thing to have all those feelings and have the intensity of it, and then you hear one of your compatriots who are saying he loves me more than everyone else, and you're like, oh, I thought we had, you know, because Shaina felt she had a connection with Shayne. Now she's hearing Natalie say he chose me, but I don't know if we know who Shayne has picked, right?
Are you sold on one person here? Like one woman already?
I will be honest with you, I just want to keep talking to you and like I want to keep getting to know you more.
I'm processing it, by the way, if I'm quiet.
This whole process, I believe, is like, why not just see it out?
Yeah, I remember this last time with, what was her name? KJ or DR? I can't remember. A lot of people like Barnett. And so there's a gamemanship to the situation where if you're Shaina, you're like, well, I've kind of put all my eggs in the Shayne basket. But if he's not going to be with me, then I have to start shifting to another basket, because if I'm second to the person that I want to be with, then I have no one. So, but I have to gauge, right? So she's being very clear. It's like, it sounds like, you know, Natalie says you've chosen her. Is that true? Because I kind of need to know that. And what Shayne is, and so from Shayne's side, he's also thinking, well, okay, yeah, me and Natalie are having a connection, but what if things don't work out? And I was still wondering about Shaina. Shaina is her name, right? And so maybe I need to keep that door open. So there's this, like a chess game where you're trying to strategize to, you know, create the best chance of success. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.